Well, I want to welcome you to the program this afternoon, and I'm going to. I originally wrote this program for about a month ago, and the markets have been changing, rapidly here the last month or so. So I have some more stuff to add to that. I'll do that as an ad-lib process as we go through. But the real purpose of the day, the single purpose of the day, is to define objective information from the marketplace as it relates to new trade coming in. And it's very, very important that as traders we trade the new trade, not the old trade. And in the past, when the market was not on the screen, all new orders were integrated into the past because the locals essentially traded 7 contracts for every order that we had. So if we had a 1,000 lot order, we traded 7,000 contracts, breaking that up into time parcels. So what you have to understand that what we had markets and prices before we had exchanges. And you have to understand is when exchange was formed, it provided some sort of service. And what was that service that the exchange provided? And that simply was one of adding time to the marketplace. In other words, it took price and added time. So that if we had a 3,000 lot order hit the pit, with the capital on the floor being greater than the order, with basically trading 7 contracts for every one of those orders, we were able to take that singular order owned by one person and reduce it down to 7,001 lots that basically allowed the market to function without that imbalance that was there. That's the role, that has been the role of exchange, and it's a role today that is missing. Not to say that it won't come back sometime in the future, but the role of exchange was to add time to price, and today there's a lack of time to price. So time measurement then, as the market moves forward, tells us then, defines the new trade coming into the marketplace, which is essential for us to trade. So if those of you who have any floor experience, you realize if we were sitting around the pit, no orders were coming in, we really wouldn't trade anything. And the same thing when I realized that I was going to trade new trade. So when I was a young trader at the Board of Trade, and I would work hard to get a quarter or half a cent profit as a position trader for the day, and the pit would empty out, I'd hold my position, and then when the pit sort of filled up again, my profit would disappear. And after about a month or two, I realized that I was trading the old and not the new. So the focus today is, can we objectively read the market activity that tells us how the new trade is taking place and how the new trade is unfolding, because that's essential for traders to understand. So that'll be the sole purpose of our class today, and we're going to divert in many different ways. But remember then that the role of the exchange is to add time to price, and if the exchange basically is not adding time to price, the market becomes much more one-dimensional. And we probably reached the apex of one-dimensionality in today's market, and which really makes it easier to trade once you get used to it. So our job is to basically try to make this objective so you can read this, and hopefully I get the job done today. So getting back to taking a look at what we have here is that, understand that the true metric for your success really was that you had more on when you're right and less on when you're wrong. And so as you go forward in trading, you don't try to be right 5 out of 10 times or 6 out of 7 times, 7 out of 10 times. You basically have to understand that when you have more on, you need to be right, and less on, you can afford to be wrong. And this differential is really, I would say, a tribute to my success comes from this differential, because I was able to distinguish when I should have more on and when I should have less on. So part of the time when you want to focus on the market, you need to reorientate your focus from price to time, because what you have to look at when you're trading, can I buy a bigger position here safely? And this is the difference, what I think at the end of 10, 15, 20 years is going to be that you were able to do that. So don't focus so much on price and entry level but focus on, can I have a bigger position safely here, or is this call for a smaller position? If you can make that basic judgment over time, you're going to do very, very well trading. And I think that's what we all aspire to. So as you go forward, try to practice this. If you trade the same volume all the time, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to succeed, because remember, in trading, the biggest economic in trading is allocation, how you allocate your resources. And if you can allocate those successfully, then you're going to win. And that covers investment trading or almost any endeavor. Okay, so we want to now move into defining the difference between price and time. And what I'm saying is, I'll give you an example of the floor, is if there's 800 one-run orders and only 200 availables, the locals step up and sell the balance using different time frames at that price, thus pushing off their offsetting trades until so price remains in control. So what we're saying is that they're like having you're making pancakes and you don't have enough flour, but you reach into the cupboard and you get flour. If the flour wasn't there, you'd have to send your wife on an errand to go get flour to finish the pancakes. So the key thing is that when we had time, we had price time, is that price was basically made available through borrowing time forward. So the locals would do a spread. The locals would trade against the direction of the market. The locals will get the edge one way or the other. But in essence, what they did is they made the price whole by selling the balance that was needed and then offering more at the ask price to keep the price there as long as possible. And by keeping the price there as long as possible, they had a chance to get in at the bid price, or that would be the pure scalper of the trade. So if we take a second example, we take 800 to buy and nothing to sell. The focus is on time to be used to find a price. So the idea is if there's 800 to buy and nothing to sell, the broker's got to start bidding up the price in order to get that. And that means that the market prices are going to be moving rapidly, like from 2 to 5 to 10, 30 on up. And the market uses direction to seek out such price. So like I said earlier, it's like running an errand because what you need is not in the cupboard. Likewise, price must move to find a price. So essentially, in this process, then, where the locals filled up the order, basically they added time to price, and that was the role of the marketplace. And to today, that we don't have the locals in the pit, and we don't have spreads out forward that are discount or full carry as much as we did before, then we're out of time in the market. We're out of time, the market must move faster. So that's the key thing. So basically, we're going to break the market down objectively into two functions. One, where it's moving fast, which means it needs to have some supply or bidding if the market's going down, or where the market runs up and runs into a supply that basically stops the market. And so fast and slow is the objective thing we're going to look at going forward. The other objective information we'll get to a little later deals with volume, and volume comes into the market a lot different today than it has in the past, in that it's voluntary. So it's more like the people coming out of the coffee shop because something's there. So if the market is running up because there is an unavailability of supply, they basically will run to fill the void. And when they do that, they really are the last person to enter the market. And if you want to trade in the fastest side of the market, you trade where the last entries are coming in and be with those people, not against them. And we'll get into that a little bit later. So right now I want to divert a little bit from the market and talk a little bit about what I call the 70% rule. And the two objective pieces of information that you have is that make up trading. First, your individual experience and your subjectivity, which provides a foundation for execution within your own knowledge base. And second, having an objective read of the market activity. An objective read is what allows you to break down the blank slate of the market into activity. So what I'm saying is you cannot approach the market entirely from a subjective standpoint. You have to have something to lean on. So for instance, when I was on the floor, if Cargill Grain Company sold 1 million bushels of grain, they did it either higher or lower. They did it basically at a certain time of the day. The market had a certain reaction, and then I just didn't follow them in terms of whether they're buying or selling. I assessed that, okay, they did this, so they're going to do more. What effect did they have? Is it a normal process? They do it every day, or is this an unusual trade? So then basically I would take that objective information of knowing that Cargill made the trade, and I would try to use it in my program. I just didn't follow what they did. I tried to see what it meant to the market, how the market was changing in terms of things. So that's an example of an objective piece of information. So the idea is that we're in a weather market, and they say, well, the rain went through Iowa. Well, how much went through Iowa? How much rain did they get? Did it all above I-80 or below I-80 or whatever? Again, it's objective information. So if the market got good rains in Iowa and the market is higher, I'd have to say there's other forces driving the market up. If the market was sharply lower, I'd say the rain is basically the dominant piece of information. And if I'm going to buy this, I have to buy it at a much cheaper price because I don't think it'll turn around, et cetera, et cetera. So we always use objective information to help us define our program. And today in the market, most people use price because price and volume were the same thing. In other words, price and time were equal, so that if you were a price trader, you were fine, and if you were a time trader, you were fine. Now, I think I was dyslexic most of my life, so I always was a time trader rather than a price trader, and that turned out to be the right thing to do because in 1992, I changed from market profile to what I call a time variable profile, which basically defined time because I sensed that time was a missing ingredient because we had more and more larger traders and funds and hedge funds trading in the marketplace, and the exchange couldn't process that information into smaller bits of imbalances, or excuse me, that imbalance into a smaller bit because we didn't have the capital equal to what the fund had. So consequently then, imbalances remained in the market. There were pockets of imbalances, and as we started off when I was active on the floor, I would say price was in control of the market 99.5% of the time. In 1992, when I changed, probably price was in control about 95% of the time. Now I would say that time and price are about equal in time in diversity of controlling the market, but time has leverage over price. So time, of course, prices to move 4 or 5 units, whereas price to price is a 1 unit move. So the leverage, internal leverage in the market comes from the supply being not there and needed immediately, and the market has to go reach to get that. So when we come back to our 70% rule, what we're looking at is we have to have a practical application for trading, one that's workable. And the idea is that if we have two things where I take my individual experience and my subjectivity and I break them both down, and I'm 70% effective on both of them, 70 times 70 equals 49%. So the idea of being 70% effectively through individual experience and objectivity is good, and being 70% effective in interpreting the objective knowledge of the market is very, very high. So this is about as high as an individual could get, and when you take 70 times 70, you get 49%, 1% less than you need. So the idea to strive to be perfect as a trader is a big, big mistake, and markets won't bend financially to what you want to do. So I remember when I first got married, I said, well, maybe I have to start making a monthly income trading. Well, I lost the first month and lost the second month and then went back the way I traded before. When it just get lucky and have a real big month and make sure that covers the other months that are void. So you cannot force the market into a program that's nice for you or one that's financially right, because it just won't work, okay? And the people today, it's very hard because we all have expenses. The expenses are a lot higher, and overhead, and we have to have the money coming in. So when I started trading, learning to trade, it was much easier to learn because I didn't have the overhead necessary to carry on. So what I want, and today with people needing the money, they try to be better than they can be. So you have to get out of the role that you're going to be perfect in terms of trading. And I'm going to jump down more or less to what I think the approach that I think is really the best one. And a more realistic goal would be 25% effective in my subjective and individual experience, and 40% times understanding how the market works. And that comes out to 10%. So I have 10% working in the market. And what you have to do at this level, you want to be able to make a little money under these circumstances of 10%. Now, one of the advantages of that 25 times 40 and being 10% is essentially that you can't get too much worse than this, okay? So you're not going to be falling apart because, I mean, if you get pretty bad, you go down to 9% or 8%, you can't really fall apart. So the risk of losing a lot of money at 10% is high. You're not going to make a lot of money there. So one goal is to be able to strive to make a little money at this space, which is essentially risk-free because you can't get too much lower. And then easier to expand exponentially. So what I call the Olympics come around every 4 years. At times in the market, I'm going to have 100% understanding of my subjectivity and 100% understanding of the objectivity of the market for brief moments of time. Now, when I started out trading, I could have that for 5-6 months because the markets were basically stable, and I could hold that position for a long period of time and try to basically sit through the drawdown. So if a market went up 10 cents and set back 5, I kept the trade. If it went up 20 cents and set back 10, I kept the trade. If it went up 50 cents and set back 20, I kept the trade. So what I was trying to do was ride a good situation where I had 100% understanding of the market, and the market would hold all its setbacks to give me confidence that the market still had the original trade involved. Now today, this 100% times 100%, we'll get into it a little bit later, is a very difficult thing. I'd say it's very brief, sometimes only 2 or 3 little profile units, and you no longer are at 100%, you're back down to 10. So what you want to do is understand that the volatility of this, and when you get the condition like the Olympics are coming along, you want to take advantage of it, and then realize that, okay, it has a very short shelf life, and I'm going to get out of this trade because it no longer has the advantages I had before. So acceptance of this fact, when one lays out the program, will be moments where one has control of both programs. And if necessary, the fallback position, you do this. So what you do is you vacillate between both programs. When you've got it going and everything's going your way, which is going to be brief, okay, and then you take your profit, get out of the trade, and then jump back into the 10% mode where you're trying to scratch around, making a living, waiting for that opportunity to come back again. Now, these opportunities come more often today, and they last shorter periods of time. They came less often in the past and lasted longer. So the adjustment I've had to make as a trader is that I have to basically, keep being more and more shorter term trading when I'm basically more of a longer term trader. So we all have to overcome, change and do that. So I've been basically working on this. I'm getting better at it, and I think I've got it pretty much at hand here. But constantly working at understanding this space, and the fact that for the moment that I'm trading real well doesn't mean the next moment I will be. Okay, and to accept that today is very important because the markets are one-dimensional rather than two. So the idea if it's one-dimensional up, it's going to turn to be one-dimensional down, and that doesn't give you a lot of time to do it. Matter of fact, the zero sums, which are an important thing to examine today, because I think it's important to understand how the markets have changed. So if you made $100 25 years ago in the market, probably 300 people contributed to that $100, with probably the biggest contribution being $2 or $3, because the market was broken down in terms of time, and that everybody contributed a little bit. And there really wasn't any zero sums as it was. It basically was neutered by the way the market rotated, but that's a different story. But right now, when we went to electronic trading, we went into a program where if you made $100, someone else lost $100, okay? And that basically changes the equation a little bit because it's easier to lose than it was before. So trading years ago, I had plenty of opportunity to take a profit before a loss, and today I have very little time frame for which to take advantage of that, and so consequently, you do too. But more importantly, I think the last 3 or 4 months, I think that the zero sums are greater than what people can win. So I know I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I'm saying if the winner in the trade makes $100, the loser loses $150. So that means it's like going to a racetrack and having some vigorish or taxes taken out before the trade. So that puts you in the position today then of trying to be a lot more cautious in terms of your trading. And worrying about losing. Now, it's sort of like playing baseball. You can't be afraid to get hit with a pitch and be a good hitter. But trading today calls for a lot more caution, and you must look at the trade from the standpoint that the person who's basically making the trade at the price with you, regardless of who it is, doesn't have much chance. Then you want to make the trade. The idea, probably the biggest mistake that I make today continually, and probably what you're making, is we're trading the market. So if the market goes up 10 cents, and 6.5, I'm buying, and it makes them making a market trade. Well, at the time I'm buying 5 lower, someone could be selling 5,000 right there and driving it 10 cents lower. So the idea is today more like a placement of your order into the marketplace, not so much trading the market. And this is something we can talk about later, but it's really a very truism and one that maybe is too advanced for you to understand right now. But this thing is, you need to be more cautious making trade and more conscious of losses than we were before. And that includes me. And when I basically get a little overconfident and doing a little bit too well for a short period of time, I revert back and get it slammed in my face. So that's what we're working with. All right, now one must examine one's objective database for output, objective output, and it comes from the market reading as subjective reads have been placed in individual categories. So right now, prices with the instability in the pricing scale are the round foundation as is market profile today, because market profile was formed with the idea that all new trades be folded back into the past trades by the locals having more capital than that order and basically breaking that order into smaller parts that fit into value area. Well, today we don't have the capacity of breaking that single order into parts, so this causes the market to move dramatically up until that situation is satisfied, and then there's no relationship to that trade and the next trade that comes on. So what we're dealing with more is a placement market rather than this. And so what the problem you probably have today, and one I'm trying to get away from, you cannot have a totally subjective decision in the market. You have to have some degree of objectivity, because the objectivity helps you understand how your program goes. So I've known people that have no real objective read of the market, and they don't last very long. So I need to have an objective read in the market, not for signal or anything, but just to understand what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it, and what the risk I'm entailing in the marketplace. So what we're going to say is the market profile is a very good program, but today it's subjective. There's no value area, there's no real extremes, and when you have a fat profile, it only becomes there's no trade taking place. So the idea is that subjectively you might be able to read it, but I'm thinking is application is going to be more and more difficult, because the things that were objective in terms of the type of profile, the type of day, the value area, the extremes, the TPO count, were all objective reads of the market that have no validity today. So what I'm going to do is we changed market profile in 1992 to what we call a time variable profile, and I offered it to the exchange and they didn't want it. So basically I've been working at it myself, and we're going to get into showing you what that does for you. Okay, so objective output is finding the degree of missing time that is no longer equal to price, okay, locating volume concentrations, and these are the only two choices that remain objective. So these are the things you have to find in the marketplace. So we're going to say then, if the market basically is moving up, and it's moving up with less time, then buying exceeding selling, and if it slows down to where it basically is moving up slower, then we're saying is that selling at that level exceeds buying. Now these aren't signals, these are just things that help you in terms of your trading. So we're going to show the time variable profile now and show you how it works. Okay, so we're going to switch now down to our market profile program, and I'll bring up the Japanese yen here in terms of trading, and I'm going to get off this volume thing here, and we're basically going to take a look at how the profiles are really formed here. So I'll get out here to overlay on the profile. All right, now what you're going to see is these profiles basically are moving through time. So you come down to the dates. On the 29th, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 profiles. On the 30th, we have 1, 2, 3 profiles. And the 31st, we have 2 profiles. On the 2nd, we have 1 profile. On the 3rd, we have 3 profiles. On the 4th, we have 3 profiles. And today, we have 3 profiles. So what we're doing is, with our profiles, instead of capturing all the new data and moving it back into the data, what we're doing is we're allowing the market to go forward and reading the new data as it comes out in terms of time. So I'm going to point out, before I get into the thing, this little black box up here basically gives me the reading on how much horizontal activity is in the marketplace. Okay, so basically this tells me how slow the market's getting. So if we take a look at this profile down here, it basically has 6 in the horizontal. So the market is basically moving up on 6, which is not very wide in terms of horizontal, and then runs up here to 16. So really we're saying the market went from fast to slow, right? That's all we're doing, fast to slow. All right, now when the market is slow, basically you get a profile like this. It used to be changing hands. In other words, we've had buyers, we'd have a transfer or a distribution of ownership at this level when we had what I call a fat price control profile. Now it just signals that there's no trade in the marketplace. There's no trade. The trade is slowed down. So it's like equivalent to the pit emptying out in the marketplace. All right, so what we're going to do is show you how we construct this difference between 6 and 16. All right, so we go to our settings and we go to setup. So what we're doing is we come down to this level here, which is auto organizer settings, and we basically we require 12 half-hour bars to be a minimum in the profile, and we require 9 to break the range, the last 9 to change the profile. So in order for the profile to change, if I basically click this off and say this profile is going to change when it has at least 12 in it and breaks the range of the last 9. Now we can have profiles that basically change right on the button, and we can have profiles like this that do not change on the button. So what we're looking for always is the speed of the market, and the speed of the market basically tells us that the shortage of supply, whether it's on the buy side or sell side, is evident in the marketplace. And so we can basically set this out as a pattern. So just coming back down to this low right here. So this is market's down on a low, and like I say, low prices are low prices. The key thing is that we want to have something that tells us that the market has stopped. So looking at the market profile before that, we have 7 in the horizontal. So then when this gets 7 or more, we're pretty sure that price control has taken place because we are getting more time down here. The market has slowed down. So if I buy the 9th half-hour bar here, okay, and then I'm looking for the market basically to have objectively, from my trading experience in the past, if the market slows down and trades opposite, there's not much chance it's going to take out the low. Not saying it won't take out the low, but there is a chance that it's not going to take out the low. So at this particular time, I rate this maybe 80% and 80% on my program. Okay, now I'm saying is that as far as my trade is concerned, I make the trade, put my stop down here, and this profile is 10, and the next one is 10, and the next one is 10, and the next one is 9, and the next one is 6. And the next one is 16. So this move then from here to here was never had a negative time until we got up to this level. And this is what we're talking about, the objective part of market profile. So we're reading this objectively. So we start down here where the market basically was 7. It broke down in terms of price. It added time, which means the price is accepted by the marketplace, and there's more buying down here than selling. Now, this is not 100% ruling in terms of the trade, but as the market took off and didn't take out the low, the odds of my trade winning increased as the market goes higher until we get up here. Now, at this level, I have a nice profit in the trade, and I can say, well, I'm going to hang on to it in the old days and try for the market to go. This trade is really over in terms of time. So this was a time trade, and you basically could have made the trade from this profile to this profile, and bought the lows all the way down and scalped the profile any way you wanted to, because this section of activity from here to here was basically supported by time, and that was an objective read. Now we're going to look at time in a little different way. So I'll jump back here a little bit in terms of the marketplace. So we have a profile in brown here, and this was where the market's coming down. This is 10 in the horizontal, okay? And we come down here, this is 8. But the fact that it is less than and changes to the upside means, okay. So the idea is that this is coming down faster. Okay, it did not reach more profiles here, so it's a time change. So we're coming down in terms of time, and we're changing in terms of time. Now, this move of time to time change is very equivalent to the profile of the past where it had a value area. So the value area basically was supporting the market. So time-to-time change is like a value area in the market. So this gives me a chance that I'm probably 90% and 90% on this particular trade at this particular moment, okay, in making it. It's higher than the other one because it's a time change. Now I'm looking for the same thing. So if this is 10, I can hold this to 11. So this one is 10, and this is 10, and this is 10, this is 7, and this is 9, and this is 8, and here we come to 16 again. Okay, so the idea is that we're able then, I think I jumped back here. I think I jumped backwards in terms of this one. So this was the trade here, excuse me. So this is the trade here, and we come up with 10, all right, from the brown profile. And this one is 11, so that trade is essentially over. It did not work like this one, which is all the way up, even though it was a higher quality trade. So then when I get the time here, I ask myself subjectively, where am I? I'm back down to 25% and 40%, and I got 10% working. I have to find another situation to trade because there's no continuity in this. This particular trade was over, and the market didn't break, and the market went higher. I'm not arguing that point, but the idea is what we're looking for is that we're going to find a way to measure objectivity in the market. The overall functionality of an exchange in terms of adding to the market was to add time to the market to slow down the price activity. And when time is speeding up, by definition, then price activity is speeding up. And also by definition, the market's one-dimensional. So if I go in and make the trades based on this objective read, I'm going to be fairly successful in terms of my trading. It's when I try to expand beyond this to other methods of basically extracting this information in longer time frames that I need to have more data to support myself in terms of that. Now we have this program, I'm just going to show it to you briefly, but this is taking this little black thing here in terms of time, and we basically have exported this into a big spreadsheet that you look at here that's all based on time and one-dimensionality and degrees of automatic trading. So we've taken this little insight right here, oops, something happened. Oh, that battery went out. Okay. Okay, now the mic's on. Okay, so what we're going to do is do a two-profile set, which is easier for you to do by just looking up here in terms of this. So what we're always looking at in terms of making a trade, whether the time of the trade is that we have 10 in the unit down here and 10 here, so there's price control. And then this unit here is still price control. So if the market's going up, it's been going up in balance. In other words, that 10 in the horizontal and 10 in the horizontal is balanced. And then saying here we have 10 in the horizontal is balanced. Now we only have 7. So the risk to your trade comes here once the market has a smaller unit and changes. So the fact that if it changed to the downside, we'd be forced to exit here on that trade. So it changed to the upside, so we were okay in terms of that. And as long as the market is moving faster, any new low is not going to go anyplace in terms of trading. So what we're trying to do is we can ship around and look at, say for instance, I'll take a look at the S&P in a different time horizon, okay, and just look at time in general. So if I look at where my cursor is, underneath my cursor, we have the market bouncing down and bouncing back up. So it's rather quick down here at the bottom at 401.5 or under. As the market moves above here to the heavy profiles, we are running out of buying in the marketplace. Okay, so basically we're going to say in a group, if I was looking at this, then the area from the 30th to the 4th under the line basically has buying in the market because the market's bouncing away from it. As we move above the line to 406 to 409, we're stalling out, which means that there's no selling in the market, but no one's buying up there. So today's opportunity was that we came up with a profile here that was a lot faster than these profiles and these profiles. And if this breaks to the upside, I'd give it a shot that it's going to go higher. It's disappointing it didn't do it already, but the idea is what you try to do is understand the different ways you can read time in the market and how important it is to you. And remember that the exchange was formed solely for the purpose of adding time to the market. So as the orders came in down here and we had no local trade, the market bounced away from that. As we got up here where we had no buying, the market stopped. Now, if we had selling in the market would have gone up real fast like this and come all the way back down and failed. That means that we had no buying, plus we had selling at the top. So the idea is isolating the market into where the buying and selling is taking place can be done by time better than any other methodology. And this is something that's important. Now, I think I got about 15 minutes left, or what do we go here? About 20 minutes. So I'm going to switch now to another program which basically deals with volume. So we're going to switch here to the Japanese yen again. And the first thing I'm going to show you is that what we're going to do is take a sample size of the profile. So we're going to have 300 half-hour bars that we are accumulating the volume in. And what we're looking at is a volume iteration here. And what we're asking the market is for 300 bars, and we're asking the market to show us the top 20 bars, okay? And if I reduce my program down a little bit so you can see it, this is our sample size. The green represents our sample size. The red is the high volume. All right, now notice that the high volume takes place on the extremes of the profiles, not in the middle of the profiles, all per market profile. Also, that you can see that the heavy volume picked up in a bigger concentration here in these last two profiles, and that's probably because of Labor Day. So the amount of trade prior to Labor Day, the week before Labor Day, we didn't trade much volume. So we're going to have a skewed meaning. We also get a skewed meaning if we basically come into where the contracts roll over. So if the contracts are rolling over into different like here, the current the 10-year rolled over. So the volume is going to be more concentrated because the roll into SEP into Ds, also because of the holiday. So you're going to get some skewed readings in terms of this. But going back to what I'm looking for is that what we're doing is we take our volume iteration and we're asking the market then to provide the top 20 bars. If I wanted the top 250 bars, I just go here and I calculate it, and I'm going to get more red bars in the marketplace. Okay, so I'm going to go back here to 20 and take this off here. So we make this 40. Make this 0. Okay, now I'm back to my 20 bars that are concentrated. All right, now what we do here, the importance of this is that the trade that comes in off the bench, so to speak, to trade. So as the buying came into the market here, I'd be pretty enthused if the market started out until I saw the volume. So once we get what we call voluntary liquidity, the market is going to basically move to the last person entering the market. So in V period, as the market started up here, we got a heavy volume. That means out of the last 300 bars, it was one of the 20th highest volume. That tells me that someone's coming off the bench to sell this, okay? And we're assuming that he is the last person. The person that wants to buy meets the seller. So you always want to trade in volume with the last person. So this is going to be more a takeoff type trade where you're selling the rallies or buying the breaks in these concentrations for the advantage in the market, because we're going to make the assumption, just like we did at the floor, that once the market opened lower, that the capital of the floor was greater than the selling, and the market opened too lower was going to stop there at least for a half hour or so. So we're going to make the same assumption when we talk about this voluntary liquidity that comes off the floor to the marketplace. We're saying is that it's going to be bigger than any event. Now, that's not always the case, but about 75% of the time it's going to work that way. So if I'm going along here, and this is where the market's been trading, and all of a sudden I get concentrated volume, I'm saying the market's not going higher from this. I'm going to sell it in terms of doing it. Now, the idea is the market really didn't break down very much in terms of that. It could have come way down here, but once we had the selling. So now we have people short in the market up here and comfortable. So the market's lower and it's lower, and it comes up and tests that, and you can sell against it. In other words, you could have sold here, put your stop above the market. Now we started down today, and we have 6 or 7 periods that are high volume. Now this is good in a way because it means that people are coming off the bench and buying the market today. However, it didn't do any good. In other words, the majority of the people who bought this, if we take the midpoint of the profile, don't have a profit. So the idea, if you were one of those persons that bought it and the market basically moved out where there was 15 in it, it means that the market is accepting this level and we have price control. And the idea is the people who bought here may be getting a little bit tired. I'm only going to buy this market if it gets above and these guys have a chance to get a profit. I'm not going to buy lower until I see the market basically give me volume back down here again. Now, when you have fat profiles or the price control of the profile, which is this area, the market usually is going to start out at the middle of it most of the time. So what you're looking at here, this is below This is a price control profile because it's 15 across, and we're going to start out underneath that. So I would sell that with the idea that it isn't going to go back over. So again, what I'm trying to do in trading is make my selection against very small losses in terms of trading. So the idea, if the market comes back above the P period here, then I'm admitting I'm wrong and I'm going to take my loss. Okay? Now, trading today is less selection and more take a chance. In other words, you want to take a chance on the market. It's like the broker splitting up an order. He's got 500 to sell. He sells 50 to 10 people. If you want that trade, you basically have to step up and take it. Your job as the trader was, if it's no good, to get out of it. If it's good, to keep it. So almost here, in terms of trading, our focus has shifted from selection, which I always did, to conditions where I can take a chance. So I'm not basically selecting. I'm utilizing the objectivity of the market to help me in terms of making a trade that I can have a minimal loss on. So I don't know whether it's going to go lower or not, but I know if it comes up here, I'm covering. So that's what we're doing. Same token is if this market is moving up fast, I'm going to buy it here until it slows down. If it turns around, comes down, I'm going to have to get out of it, right? So there's no sure trade in terms of this. What we're doing is taking advantage of the objective reads of the market so we can place ourselves into the market with minimum exposure. Okay, now I said the word place myself into the market. So in this example, I'm not trading the market. I'm saying the guy who basically buys this from me has very little chance unless the market goes over here. So I'm going to take advantage of him losing. So I'm not buying the fact that the market's down from the top or this profile or anything else. Remember, I said we have to move more towards placement in the marketplace. So I'm placing myself in advantageous positions. So up here where we're getting heavy volume, I'm going to be inclined to get out if I'm long and inclined to be a seller, saying the market's not going higher, minimum higher, okay? It doesn't go higher. I can do the same thing here. I'm going to sell it and hold it for a while. It's not going to make a new high. I'm going to buy it down here with the idea it's not making a new low, right? Okay, so what you have to do, see when you're using volume in the market, it really accentuates where you're placing yourself in the market. And right now, these people that came off the woodwork were called in by the market, basically are getting the most attractive price to sell. So they have the advantage, and we're making the assumption that they're going to be bigger than the event. Now, it always doesn't work that way, but that's the way it is. Now, over here where we have light selling in the market, in other words, we have one red and we have one red here in terms of the market, that means that the buying is basically here and the selling's not here to offset it. So the idea is we're going to find varying degrees of trade. So down here at this level where the market is lower, now we have a double objective thing here. So in this profile we have 10 across, and this one we have 9. And we basically break to the upside, so we have a time-to-time change here, plus we have heavy volume. So then instead of doing a 1 lot, I might do a 3 lot here. So what I'm talking about in terms of trading, I'm going to vary my volume. I'm going to place my trade into the market. I'm not going to trade the general market. I'm trading the objectivity that buying is still here, so I'm long, and I'm not going to extend my time frame. So going back to this example here where I'm going to get out because the market moves fast, and then it moves down and moves fast up. So I'm going to get out of the trade here. The market broke a little bit and took off. That's a entirely different trade. So I'm not trying to stay from here to here by trading the market. I'm trading this section of the market. I'm going to trade this section of the market. I'm breaking it down into smaller parts. So why am I breaking it down into smaller parts? Because the market isn't doing that anymore. So when the locals traded 7 contracts for every order that was generated, they broke the market down into smaller parts so that the whole was integrated. Today, we have no one breaking it down. So then for me to succeed, if the market isn't breaking it down, I have to break it down, don't I? Now, if I'm basically really fundamentally bullish and I think the market's going to go to the moon, and I will divert from this program of trading to more investing. I said, okay, I'm staying with this until it knocks me out the low here. Okay, I'm pushing chips to the table. That's not a trade I'm going to make. I would say I'd make that trade 1 out of 200 trades. So what I want you to begin to think of, I want you to think about reading the objective readout of the market, which is time. The second one is volume, and then trading breakdown of the market into sections, because you have to sectionalize the market today because the market's not making it a one whole. And then you have to place your trade in the market rather than trading the market. Now, I reverted back to trading the market all the time because that's what I'm used to. But these are disciplines that I'm trying to enforce for myself, and I think I'm gaining on it. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm attacking the market the way it should be attacked, and I'm making money doing it. So I basically hope I can get better and become second-hand. But the amount of changes I had to make versus a day trader were amazing because I was mainly a position trader. So I'm sort of like a fish out of water, but I realized in order to be successful going forward, and I've been trading for over 50 years, is that I have to change and adapt myself to the market. And I have to stay current. And the key thing, I think, that mistake that most of you making is trading is, one, that all the data that you are receiving that you think of is objective is subjective. And two, you're trading the market instead of placing your trades in the market. So if you could basically build on those two things as improvement, I think you'll have a better future than you have going where you are now going. Now, one of the things that's been very real in the last 15 or 20 years, that floor traders who are very successful on the floor really have a very difficult time trading off the floor. And the reason is that the objective reads that they got on the floor, they're not getting those same reads or any read that's objective on the upside. They're trying to trade a program, they're trying to break signals, they're trying to trade breakouts, when before they were trading the objective read of the market. So what I'm saying is that the reason I'm pushing creating variable profiles and hoping that exchange licenses it. I hope that eSignal licenses it. I hope that you want to license it so eSignal does, is that we basically provide you with an objective read of the market two ways, one coming from volume and one coming from time, and there's only two objective reads available. Objective reads are 100% necessary for you to succeed as a trader. So that sort of sums up the program today. I know I've given you quite a bit new, but not too much in terms of a lot of detail. I mean, I think that you basically it's pretty simple what I'm saying, and realize then that before the exchanges were formed to serve markets, we had prices, but that was inadequate. What was adequate was when the exchanges added time to the market, with the first time frame being the harvest low to the post-harvest high. So a speculator would come in and buy the harvest break and sell the post-harvest high. He was adding time to the market. And exchanges like the Board of Trade and the Merc probably added 10 to 50,000 time frames into the marketplace to help break the market into a valuary. The reason we had a valuary was that any big order was broken down into small parts. So let's say a large trader came in and he bought 5,000 contracts and the market was unchanged. We all knew to sell it. If he came in and bought 5,000 contracts and the market was 5 higher, you should have bought it, right? So the idea is the market took that 5,000 order and broke it down into one lots, essentially. So the effective imbalance of the market was reduced to a one lot, so that trade, which was imbalanced relative, so let's say we had 50 trades, all 49 10 lots and one 5,000 lot. The job of the market to make all those equal or less than imbalances than they were by adding time to those markets. And once you understand that, the future is great. And we will basically, I think, add time back to the market, not from the floor, but eventually from screens. And we'll have the market much more functional than 5 years from now or 3 years from now than we have today. And you take a look at the markets today, there's a lot of troubles out there that basically have evolved since we've gone from a non-profit exchange to one that's for profit. So we've had, the flash crash. We had the most recent one with the stock market maker buying $7 billion worth of stock. We've had MF Global. We've had Peregrine. All these things have happened mainly to the marketplace, and that is not adding to the service of the market. So I think that we have to look up and say, get back to the basic reason the exchange was in business in the first place, and it'll take a little bit of time for it to happen, but it will happen, and we'll be back to the driving position we were. We should be the leading part of the world today. I mean, trading is the big thing. It's going to be transported around the world. I mean, the exchanges should have 10 million screens out. They hardly have any in relationship to what they could have. It's mainly because they're not providing the information that they had before. I think that the fact the locals go upstairs and can't trade tells you there's a lack of objective information. So get back to it, and we'll be back on track. So with that, I'll close my talk. I'm sorry for the interruption. It was because my power cord went off, and fortunately Steve was here to get it going, so I'm sorry for the interruption. If you'd like me to do it again sometime in the future, I'd be very happy to do it. I hope you got something out of it. I really enjoy giving these talks. I usually get more out of them than you do, and I appreciate the opportunity that eSignal has given me and Steve, and we think we have a really good product with our company, and hopefully that some of you, more of you, will take advantage of it in the future. So thank you very much.